I guess I'll start with what Mr. Young mentioned, the question of federal issues involved with this legislation. Actually, our state has federal issues involved with how our child care system has been implemented for well over 20 years. We have been in violation of the Welfare Reform Act, Section 98.30. Interestingly enough, that section is titled the Parental Choice section. And parental choice is something that's big on the agenda this session, and yet it's absent from this bill. What 98.30 mandates is that a parent receiving a subsidy for child care is to be given at the time that their subsidy is approved the following information: that they can receive their subsidy in the form of a check, cash, or a certificate. They can choose to bring their child to, in our state, which would be a Class A facility. And in that case, the facility is said to be contracting with the state. If the parent chooses the certificate as a voucher, or obviously the cash or the check, they are to be told that they can take that certificate to any child care center, even a religious center. The difference being that if they take that certificate to a non-contracted facility, that facility is free to educate those children in any way they want to, period. It's very clear. So in the Parental Choice section of the Welfare Reform Act, we have full choice given to parents, and should have been given to parents all the years that we've had a child care system and child care regulations. Instead, what has happened, and what has been advertised on DSS's website over the years, we have it all documented. And what has happened when parents go to apply for their subsidy is all parents are given a certificate. And with the certificate, they're told that they can choose from Class A centers, which would be the contracted with the state centers. They are not given the option to take that subsidy to a religious facility or to just any child care facility that they would choose as parents. That has been denied the parents in Louisiana for all these years, decades. That has not changed as a federal statute. That has not changed. And neither has Louisiana. So with this bill, what we see is this continues. We were shocked that it's continuing, actually, because we actually brought this up to, in October of 2010, we addressed the Inspector General. In 2011, we met with Mr. Wagaspack. We spoke with Christy Nickel and informed them of this. And in H.R. 82, which many of you voted for last session, although between the last time we saw it and when it got passed, the date got removed, there was actually supposed to be a legislative audit performed just for this purpose, so that we could sort out where are we in our system and why are we here and what do we need to do from there. The legislative auditor refuses to do the audit that you directed, but we've met with him a couple of times to no avail. I was really glad that Ms. Johnson mentioned the model being Washington State. In speaking of the HR from last year, HR 82, that's one of the models that we mentioned in the HR. And that's because exactly that model is what we knew was coming here. We anticipated that. And the reason is this is setting up the unionization of our child care workers through SEIU. This, again, is well documented. You can go to Washington State website and see it. It's laid out. SEIU and AFSCAM divided up the states, and SEIU has jurisdiction over us when it comes to this child care issue. Now, I've not got a problem with unions. My dad's always been union. That's not the point. The point is, in our right-to-work state, are our departments and agencies that are supposed to be administering and overseeing our child care system, are they supposed to be using our tax dollars to set up a public union within our departments? Of course, I say no. And that is well documented and very easy to see. In going through the bill, we have a few notes. One being, again, I don't remember which one of the representatives from the department said it, but they said that, Ms. Johnson said that what we do know is that children are generally not kindergarten ready. Yet, in this legislation, it admittedly states that there's no definition for kindergarten readiness yet. So, with no definition, I find it curious that we could absolutely know that children are not ready. The effect that not following 98.30, the parental choice section, has had, I had a child care center back in the 90s, and the effect that that section, ignoring that section, has had on parents and child care centers speaks to your concerns, Mr. Richard, because parents, of course, obviously, who depend on that subsidy have been denied the opportunity to give their children what maybe they would have preferred in the way of education and child care for their child. From the business standpoint, it absolutely has resulted in private child care centers and family home care centers, really the whole realm, to close. You can't compete as a purely private entity with the public dollars. It's a system that was set up to put private child care out of business. We fought it in '92 successfully, and here we are again. Here we are again. I think it's really of note that our coordinated system of care, this networking, is already set up. And in 2011, $1.5 billion was funded for was appropriated for this. A decade ago, the same people that are in charge of this child care system for our state were in charge then. We were ranked 49th in the care of our children. Today, actually as of August 2011, we were still ranked 49th. Now, all these billions of dollars later, are we ever going to stop beating our head against the wall, giving the money to the same organizations, NACI, NACRA, now United Way, and SEIU? Are we really going to still continue to give these groups this money for a failed system?
Thank you, ma'am.
Could I just have a closing remark?
Ma'am. Mm-hmm.
In 1998, Professor Mark Crane, an economist at George Mason, was asked to report back to the Commissioner of the Department of Social Services for the Commonwealth of Virginia with an analysis of an NGA resolution which proposed that the Commonwealth work toward a system of child care seamlessly linked to the healthcare and education systems. That language is exactly in this legislation before you today. And his analysis exposes exactly the agenda for children that we're here speaking about today. Part of this analysis follows. The requisite concentration of government power becomes captured by special interest groups, the ones I mentioned in our case, These same interest groups use their influence over the state regulatory process and funding pass-through mechanisms to increase the demand for their services and to suppress competition. Rather than promoting a diverse array of child care options for parents, the power of the state becomes a vehicle to promote a standardized model of child care, which obviously is what's being proposed, favored by politically successful,
Ma'am?
favored by politically successful pressure groups. The lesson here is that the promise of a government-coordinated system in an idealized political environment is very different from what has now been realized in this world of special interest politics. That was written in 1998 in response to the NGA resolution asking for exactly what you're being asked to vote on today to be done. And his concerns obviously resonate within Louisiana today. And I ask you to strongly consider those in thinking about what you're going to do for our children and our parents, because that's who the real stakeholders are. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming out. Ma'am?